I'm a strong believer in the Genesis 12:3 blessing and cursing. God does bless the nation, denomination, church, ministry, individual, business, etc. that blesses Israel. He likewise curses those who hammer her. And we are hearing endlessly about the conflict in the Middle East that's obviously been spurred on by ISIS. And they actually call themselves IS, which stands for Islamic State. It's President Obama who calls them ISIL. Why? The L stands for the Levant, the L in ISIL. The Levant is a geographic region that today includes Cyprus, Lebanon, Syria, parts of Turkey, and the prize, Israel. Now, some maps include part or all of Egypt. So the Levant is considered the crossroads of Western Asia, the Eastern Mediterranean, Northern Africa. Understand that ISIL, ISIS, or IS has made it clear that Jerusalem is the final destination for the formation and declaration of global domination. The goal line is Israel. The goal posts are Jerusalem. The Islamic State wants global domination by 2020, but the heart of the caliphate is to be Jerusalem, God's holy city, the city to which God will return someday. In their mind, ISIS mind, they can stop this. The heart of the caliphate will be the Levant. They will not stop with Syria and Iraq. They have set their sights on all of the above nations that I listed, but the center of the target is Israel. I'd like to play a couple of clips, and it's going to further explain this. It's also going to further explain perhaps why Barack Obama insists on calling them ISIL, I-S-I-L. First clip I'm going to play is Glenn Beck, and he has been an outstanding teacher explaining all of this. This is just a short, almost 3-minute clip.
Can we please look up the L in ISIL? Because I believe it's Levant, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Do you know what that means?
That's like the region, right? Instead of the...
But do you know specifically what's included in that region?
Israel, right?
Uh-huh. Think of this. The president is calling them ISIL.
And no one else is.
Nobody else is. We are. So we're saying it's ISIL. We're saying it's ISIS. We actually should be flipped. I should be saying that it's ISIL, and the president should be saying it's ISIS, because the president is saying that's a regional thing. Yet at the same time, he says it's ISIL and insists that it's ISIL. ISIS is a regional, upper regional. ISIL, the adding of the L, the Levant, means it's all the way into Egypt, and it takes all of the Palestinian homeland into account. No Israel.
Maybe you should come out today and agree with the president and finally take a stand. And you've disagreed with him many times. I don't know if you've noticed that over the years, but here's one where he has it right. The Levant is a better description of
what
this
it
group.
is. And here's why it needs to be called ISIL and not ISIS, but it needs to be called that as a warning. Our president is not warning us why he's calling it ISIL.
If they were a JV team, he should be calling it ISIS.
ISIS,
right.
Okay? But he's saying that it's ISIL, which is a direct slap in the face to our strongest ally in the region, who always punches above their weight, Israel. Israel knows what the L means. And for the president to say it's ISIL, not ISIS, and then not warn and not double down on Israel and say, and by the way, the reason why it's ISIL is because it is taking over the Holy Land. It is saying we'll run all of the Jews into the sea. There is no more Israel if it's ISIL. This is why we must be strong on Israel. So if I'm ISIS and I hear the president say, you're really ISIL, and I'm not. I'm kind of wishy-washy on that whole Israel thing. You're on my side. He's giving us the recognition. The most powerful man in the world. Remember, you're on stage. You have to play everything. What is that over there? Everything has to be huge. You're on television. For him to say ISIL is sending a message overseas to them. I know who you are. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything.
Okay, now I'm going to back that up with a short clip from Pastor J.D. Farag. He happens to be a Christian Arab pastor, Calvary Chapel in Hawaii, and he's going to make the case, basically the same case as Glenn Beck has just made.
ISIL, if you will, plays a pronounced role in this strong delusion, specifically as it relates to Israel, the Jewish people, God's chosen people. And here's how I get there. IS has made it clear in no uncertain terms that Jerusalem is the final destination for the formation and declaration of global domination. That's the vision that the president says they don't have. They have a very clear vision, and that's the vision. Now, I put this slide back up. We looked at this a while back, but this is just in a nutshell the who, what, when, why, where, and how of the Islamic State. We need look no further than to the writings of Islam to understand that the goal line is Israel. That's where the end zone is. And the goalposts are in Jerusalem. And this, my friends, is why they say ISIL. For you see, ISIL stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Hang on to that for a second. ISIS is more specific in that it stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So why the confusion back and forth, calling them ISIS or ISIL, more so it seems as of late ISIL? Well, I believe that any reference to them as ISIL is in effect a denial of the very right of Israel to exist, and as such lay claims to their eternal capital, Jerusalem. They want to wipe Israel off the map. They want to, by their own declaration, erase all of the borders in the Levant, which is the area that I'm going to show you a map of here shortly.
So, is Barack Obama sending a signal to the terrorists that he's in favor of this idea? Well, we certainly don't know that, but when we look at his overall policies against Israel, which again was part of my message at Understanding the Times Fall 2014, it makes sense. He wants the demise of Israel. His Islamic heritage demands it. So does the Islamic State know they have a president of the United States sort of in their back pocket? Israel knows the meaning of all of this, and she's further reminded that her longtime ally America has turned on her. Is it any wonder that America is more problem-laden than at almost any other time in her short history? The entire world is destabilized by a weak U.S. president with an affection for tyrants and thugs and an aversion to our longtime allies, particularly Israel. But this is playing out into the predicted scenario that must play out if you look at it through the prophetic lens. And by the way, that will certainly lessen the despair if you look at it through those lenses. So a signal is being sent to tyrants and terrorists, in my opinion, saying, I know your intent. Your intent is to take the Levant, which includes Israel. You want her annihilation. You want Jerusalem as the heart of your caliphate. I'm signaling you that I understand your intent. I'm not calling you IS. I'm not calling you ISIS. I'm going to call you ISIL, the Islamic State in the Levant. And when you look at overall U.S. policy towards Israel under the current administration, I think this is a pretty safe conclusion to draw. And folks, this is not pleasing in God's eyes. Israel remains his covenant land. He says in Leviticus 25, the land is mine. You can't mess with it. You certainly can't turn it over to an Islamic caliphate. There are are consequences to any nation that participates in that, and the hour is late, friends. You should expect stunning developments like this. Don't let them shake you. As often as I say, though, if you don't look up and only look around, you will be shaken, and the more things spin out of control, the more we must remind ourselves that God remains in control, remains in